Hey guys, so today I'm covering a very different sort of video today. This is regarding a book review, which is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. I hope that's how it's pronounced. This is I've read other books on money and other aspects, but this is a very intriguing sort of book, a very different book, because this does not really speak, it does not tell you about money, it doesn't teach you how to invest better, more from the tactical perspective, but more like it helps you with how you think about money, as what it does for you, to you, and it has a lot of advice from what our parents have been telling us, and we have paid no heed to them until we know it's too late, and now we are like, shit, why didn't we just do what they told us? um, you can also check the video by Ali Abdal. He's done a review on this book. Beautiful video, very professional, and he has chunks of information which is very interesting. You could also check, I think Ankur Wariku also put this up as a recommendation. So it's more about your relationship with money rather than how to invest. It's not tactical, it's more about how you think about money, what it does. So let me give you an idea. I've taken some notes. I am only 50% through this book, and it is an absolute joy to read every chapter. It's like a moral science book, with the stories that actually convince you to save and the other things, why it's so necessary, and the simple facts that we just ignore and don't realize when we are reading the very successful stories. So like when we are reading Bill Gates' story, we just look at how he was a tech genius and how he got extremely rich, and wow, he built a company. But if you're looking at the money perspective, there are a lot more things that actually make up that, and unless we're able to see the whole picture, like, I won't tell you the story right away. It's there in one of the chapters. Very interesting facts. I did not know about these, and hopefully for you, if you didn't know, you would also find it very intriguing. And that's why I'm sharing this with you. I'm going to share at least a liner from each of the 10 chapters that I've read through. 10 more chapters are left, which I'll cover some other time. So let's see. Here are the contents. I'm just going to read those out and share one liner which I found most interesting, each of those. So the first one was the first one is, this is the introduction, the greatest show on earth. This is where he actually tried to say that money itself is a very interesting thing, because you don't have to be a Harvard MBA to actually be rich. You just need to do a few things right, and it's more about consistency and how you are treating your relationship with money. So if you're really treating it short term, it will give you short term benefits, and if you're treating it long term, treating it like a soulmate, it's going to be a soulmate. So you can't really just do sprints and expect the results of a marathon. And the best part of this book is it has the morals linked with related stories. So for example, he says that money is such a beautiful thing to look at if you're looking at it from the big picture perspective. So he mentions that there's this Harvard MBA guy, Merrill Lynch executive, very super successful in his professional career. He retires at 40 with immense wealth, and apparently goes bankrupt soon after. He spent a lot of money on his house, and that cost a lot even in maintenance, and there was a bad time that hit the economy, and then he goes bankrupt. At the same time, he mentions Donald Reed, who actually made the headlines in the newspaper after he died, which was because he had died with a wealth of about $8 million. So $1 million is about 7 crores in Indian rupees, and What he did was he passed high school. He was the first guy in his family to pass high school, and he hitchhiked his rides to school. And you can understand the kind of background he had. He did not have the resources, and yet he made it. So how did he make it? He actually fixed cars at gas stations, swept floors. Whatever little he could save, he wasn't earning a lot. Whatever little he could save, he actually invested those in blue chip stocks. Probably he got lucky, but whichever way it was his consistency over. He died at 92, around, if I'm not exactly correct, somewhere around in his 90s. So over time, his building of wealth is what actually deposited this $8 million return. It was not that he was earning a lot, but it was his consistency and a very simple lifestyle. He was very humble. He was married once, didn't remarry once his wife expired, I believe. And he led a very simple life. His hobby was chopping wood. So that's what he says, that it's the greatest show on earth, because you don't have to be the best surgeon on earth to be an expert in money. You can build wealth more through how you're treating the relationship with money. And I think that's something that my father has been telling me since ages, and I didn't get it. So this book changed it for me, and honestly I'm looking at it in a very different way, and that is why this book became so special for me, and I really wanted to review it because I think a lot of you who are in my shoes may understand this now. So I'm really enjoying how this book has changed my perspective. Now we are starting with the chapters. The first one is No One's Crazy. So this actually speaks about personal experiences. So how we go through personal experiences actually shapes our financial decisions over what actually is happening in the whole world, because we are not getting the big picture. What we really face is what's happening to us. So suppose there's a market crash and we were not able to pay the bills for our parents in the hospital because we hadn't had our money invested, then which obviously you can't sell anymore because the value of it has gone really low and you're going to make a lot of loss, and even if you do sell, it's not much money, so you actually lost a lot of money there. So in that case, this particular person would be very skeptical in investing in stocks later on in his life, and he says it's our impressionable years are generally between 0 to 20s and mid 20s. So during our teens and mid 20s, that's when we are gathering information and deciding on the relationship with money and deciding where we should invest, and most of this is formed through references, your personal relationships and your personal reference advices, and also your personal experiences in themselves. So not all of that is very factual. So really, if someone does not invest in stocks, you can go deeper and try to understand why, because they might be right. So I'll give an example right from the book. So he says that people who were born in 1950s, they saw literally no growth in the stock market, inflation adjusted, in about 20 years, whereas people who were born in 1970s, stock market grew about tenfold. So people in 1970s would probably think it is crazy not to invest in stocks, whereas people who were born in 1950s, they didn't get any return. So it makes sense if that generation does not believe in investing in stocks. So the point is, he's trying to say that everyone has a different perspective, and that's generally true. The various wars, some generations go through wars, some generations go through various kinds of economic crises, and their idea and perspective on investing in money is very different from the others, and we should be very humble about this whole perspective and not think that why not invest in stocks, that is foolish. This is not the right way to think. So we should be able to think logically, but money in itself, investing, is an emotional decision, and this is how he has given an example. And this was a very mind-opening exercise, because really I didn't know that people born in 1950s, it makes absolute sense if the stock market didn't grow. I didn't see that, so I wouldn't know. And some generations have seen very high inflation, so they had to pay 3 times more for gas. So saving for them probably would have been the biggest priority, and it completely makes sense. I mean, what do we do with money? We need the money for security, right? We need to be spending it when so that we can save our loved ones when they're sick. Not exactly for all the rich experiences, but to give us at least we first want our needs to be met, which is good healthcare. Health in general is one of those factors, I'd say. And maybe after that we'll look into the remaining stuff. Now comes we often do the opposite though, but yeah, we'll go through that in the book further on. Let's see, luck and risk. This is the next one. This is very interesting. This is the chapter on Bill Gates. It also mentions Warren Buffett, but I found the Bill Gates example very interesting because I had no clue. So youngsters are often very inspired with leaders like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. So he has mentioned the luck that Bill Gates had. So Bill Gates apparently went to a school which had an alumni by chance. So there were a lot of by chances that had to come in place for him to get so lucky. He had access to very powerful computers, and that was only present there. It was more powerful than anything was available in colleges back then. So he had to be extremely lucky to go to that one school that had an alumni who actually had donated for this particular cause. He believed that computers are the next thing, and he gave that to the school, and Bill Gates went there. So he was extremely lucky to go there, and then he of course was very passionate about it, and he was very skilled at it. But the first fact that having that resource, that computer, was he was extremely lucky to be in that place at that time, and then grow the skills. He also had a friend in his class who he says was one of the brightest minds, and was equally talented, if not more, than Bill Gates himself. I can't remember the name exactly, but his classmate, look at this. So this is why it says luck and risk. Luck was with Bill Gates and risk was with his classmate, because his classmate was extremely talented in computers himself, and he and Bill actually spoke about making a Fortune 500 company sometime in the future. And he dies in a mountaineering incident before he can pass his high school, which is extremely sad. And the probability of this is extremely low, of dying in a mountaineering accident. And he's actually given the numbers, the author has actually given the numbers of the probability, and in which that his classmate actually fell into, which was very sad. So the point is that when we think that wow, he got this luck, then all that he's trying to stress here is maybe don't pray for that kind of luck, because you don't know if you're getting the luck or the risk. Both are just as probable. You could just get the risk and die tomorrow. So rather just live a humble life and try to build on it and do what you're good at. So that's some part of it is my advice, and also I am building up on what I understood and so it's not exactly all that. The examples and the chapters are exactly what the author says, but I am also adding some perspective of mine that I understood while reading it. I think that's natural, right? Okay, so let's go to the next chapter. The next chapter is the fourth chapter, which is consistency. Let's see. Okay, compounding. Okay, this speaks about compounding. So the point is, did you know Warren Buffett is extremely rich, right? He's known for that. His investment decisions. So $81.5 billion of his $84.5 billion actually came to him after his 65th birthday. 65 years. He had lived 65 years. And he's been investing since he was 10. So can you understand the amount of years he's actually spent building this wealth? His um, his return annually is actually 22%, which is not very high. So the point is, the secret behind Warren's wealth is really time. He had a lot of time for the money to compound, and of course, um, whenever you're investing in terms of stock, etc., there comes this particular thing. Not all of them will do well, but there will be a few which will outdo the others, which will basically be a superstar, and you can't guess that. You really can't guess that. You just have to have enough diversification, and some of them will do well. That's what happened to Warren. Most of his wealth comes from about 10% of his investments, and that's pretty much seen in many other cases. So same place. Let's see Jim Simmons. Just read on this guy. I mean, he's actually annual rate of return is, he's been able to return at 66%, which is probably the highest to date, and that is crazy high. And he runs a very Renaissance Technology, I believe. No, Renaissance. It's a investment company, and they just beat all benchmarks. 66% is extremely high. But Jim Simmons only started at 50 years old, and he's got a team of mathematicians or physicists who actually run very, very complex statistical models that then say how much to invest in what, and they do not share their trade secrets. But 66% is crazy. The point in this book is that despite Jim Simmons making a 66%, his wealth is not that big as Warren's, because Warren had the secret of time. He had 65 years. 65, if he starts investing at 10 years, then he had 55 years for the money to compound, and that is his secret of wealth. And that's what the author here is trying to say, that it is not such a big deal. We have time. We just have to be consistent, and if we start early, we should reap better results. Okay, because being Jim Simmons, he's an expert in his field. I believe he was a professor at MIT. I might be wrong here, just check it in the book. So he's an expert. He was a professor. That's his field, and what he does is extremely complex. So becoming Jim Simmons is extremely difficult. But what Warren Buffett did, giving that time for compounding, that's simple. That is what we can all do. So that's what he is trying to highlight. Okay, let's go to the next. I'm probably blabbering a lot. Okay, fifth chapter is getting wealthy versus staying wealthy. Okay, the point is, we all, most of us can find a way to get a high profile job or get enough money. But the point is, staying wealthy and being wealthy, I mean, getting wealthy are two different things. Getting wealthy is, so there's a difference between rich and wealthy. By rich, he means someone who is able to earn quite some amount of money, so your inflow is high. But staying wealthy is more about how much you are not spending and how much you're able to save. So he says, wealth is what you don't spend. And then you go into the sixth chapter, which is Tales You Win. This has a lot of details. I would really recommend you to read through. I would not be the right person to explain this, but majorly it says that investing is not foolproof. So even if you're failing 50% of the times, even then you can really win. Okay, you can still make a fortune. That's what it's trying to say. Then comes 7, freedom. Okay, so this is something I really liked. The main thing about why money is important is this freedom. So what does money do? It gives you financial independence. You don't have to go to a job. You don't have to show up when you're sick. It gives you the ability to control your own time. And I think that's true. That's very true. And let's see what's the next chapter. So freedom, I think this is one of my favorite chapters, the freedom part. Then there is Man in the Car Paradox. This is a very, very impressive chapter. There's really the man in the Ferrari. Really, we enjoy our possessions, and we are most impressed by our own possessions than anybody else. So I am more impressed by my Bose speaker than anybody else. The other people are probably going to enjoy listening to it and seeing it, stuff like that. But really, we ourselves are more impressed by our own possessions, and honestly, that's what is making us less wealthy. So you might as well pretty much listen to similar songs on JBL. But of course, there's nothing wrong in being passionate in a particular field. But what generally tends to happen, including with me, you overspend on a lot of things that really you don't need to. So for example, what I mean is, you can justify an Apple Watch because it's a health device. Of course, they're obviously very, very overpriced, but maybe you can skip the Bose speaker and take it some other time when you've actually compounded more on your wealth, and keep a limit on how much you are spending on those extravagant things, because after all, you're really compromising on your freedom. That the money you spend is really taking away freedom from you. You could have attained freedom faster if you wouldn't have spent it on the extravagant things, right? I hope I can put that to practice. I'm really looking forward to that. Okay. Next we are in wealth. Okay. Wealth is what you don't see. That's very true. Have you seen people like Narayan Murthy? So anybody working in Infosys probably would have told you he's an extremely humble guy. You would not see him and just realize that he's the founder. And most founders, if you see, are extremely humble, and they have a very simple lifestyle. Most of it might also be because they love their work, and that's all that they really focus on. And if you're just spending like crazy, then that's pretty much the reason why you're not wealthy in the first place, because you're not letting the money compound. So how would it make you rich any day? I mean, wealthy, sorry, rich and wealthy are different. I explained it earlier, according to this book. And then comes save money, right? So I'm still yet to complete this chapter. So he has a very interesting take on this, the author, that when there's a crisis of fuel, we didn't exactly find a lot of new places to extract fuel, but what really happened was we were able to enhance our technologies to consume less fuel. So that means we are the objects over here that are using the fuel, which is money. So the lesser we cost, the lesser is our existence cost. It will help us to save more, and that's a great way, because that is within your control. You do not know if you can compound at Jim Simmons' rate of 66% per year. Probably not, and it's literally impossible for a common man to do that. So that's beyond your control. But what is in your control is this: if you reduce your spends and your cost of living, then you can do much better. So that is what it is, and I'll try to come back with more book reviews. Let me know if you like these kind of videos and if you want us to do more of these. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Please subscribe.